Hi everyone, hope you're all doing good. This is the Lucky Bastard game, but not as you know it. It's a special one-off edition of the Tapology Lucky Bastard game. Obviously, as anyone following this series will know, we are um, about partway through the 16th edition of the Tapology Lucky Bastard game. There are 8 players remaining in that one, but this event does not form part of that. This is a standalone Lucky Bastard game, a new game that consists of one event and one event only, which is this one, the Day of Reckoning boxing cards. Obviously, it's boxing instead of MMA, so that's a bit different as well. So yeah, it's a sort of a spin-off basically from the Lucky Bastard game, and yeah, it's quite an interesting experiment. Let's see how this goes. Different sports. As for the contestants, the original 28 players that were in the 16th edition of the Tapology Lucky Bastard game, I've just put back into this game. So there's 28 of you in total. Like I say, some of you are through. There's 8 of you through in the 16th. There's the others have all gone out already, but that has no bearing on this game. So, regardless of your status in the last game, doesn't matter. This is a new game. This is a new opportunity to lose. But anyway, just to go over those names again. If it's on this Excel sheet, I can't tell because Zoom is so slow to load. Yep, it is. But yeah, just to run over those again, we got love my arse off an AZ, Baron Van Rattus, Bellatrix, Boom Shakalaka, Calfoth, Kenhager Ariz, Captain Quebec, C. Collins 44, who coincidentally is one of the editors for Tapology or Boxing on Tapology. So even though boxing isn't my speciality or compared to MMA, I'm sure he'll be able to correct my inevitable mistakes. or probably a bit more interested for him for this one. Beesball as next. Damien Handel as well for Damien Handel for 20. Can't forget that. Can't forget to Blaze, can we? Dr. Maxis 2, Foghorn Sam, Fresno MMA, KK Kombu, Cushy Cake, Mule Floyd, Piggy Bank, Rigno, Shat, Schwer Industry, Tian 6, me, Stephen Terry, Carterer, the MMA Historian, Trail Allman, Trig, Ubermatched, and XCon Chris. So, good luck to you guys, and before we get into it, I'll just still go over this card a bit because, like I say, it's a bit different because obviously we normally cover MMA or specifically the UFC, but as far as boxing cards go, this is a unicorn, and because most your average boxing card will consist of the main events, which will be usually a good quality fight. The co-main event also a decent fight. If you're lucky, the third main event will also be a decent matchup, but then the rest will typically be prospect versus journeyman kind of fights where there's only going to be one outcome, sort of 10-0 guys fighting someone with a record of 5 wins, 30 losses, and they're basically just glorified sparring sessions effectively. And quite frankly, have absolutely no appeal to the casual fight fan, really. Um, I get obviously it's to build up the prospects a bit, but really, when you follow MMA and you're used to seeing even fights and all seeing people at the same level fight each other, it doesn't quite hit the same, if I'm being honest. But that's what makes this card so special because it's there's a lot of very good records on here. Got a few fights where there's some undefeated guys versus other undefeated guys. Having said that, there are quite a few discrepancies in the betting. Actually, on my notes, I don't normally make a note of the odds, but I have this time simply because some of them are just so extreme. Um, And to be honest, there's also a few fighters that I'm not as familiar with really on this card, if I'm being truthfully honest. Um, I don't know shit about MMA, and I know even less about boxing, but basically there's a few that I'm not as familiar with. So on paper, their records look quite good, but for some reason there'll be a massive underdog or a massive favourite, and I've not really seen them fight, so I'm sort of shy away from making any kind of bold statements or claims because I don't like trying to judge fighters until I've actually seen them in a live fight, and not just highlights either, but a proper fight. Highlights are useful, but you really need to watch full fights to get a proper idea of a fighter's skill set. Um, anyway, as I go into more details as and when those fighters come up, there's going to be quite a lot of doubling up because there's only 8 fights. Because typically um, boxing matches go on longer than MMA fights, so there's less fights on the card. Whereas usually in MMA you'll have like 12 to 15 fights. There's just 8 on this one, but as there's 28 of you, there will be quite a lot of doubling ups. So I'm sure on the bright side, you'll be pleased to hear that will prevent me rambling once they start coming up. Once the same fighters come up 2 or 3 times, won't really be rehashing the same points, hopefully. We'll just quickly touch on the main event, as always. Anthony Joshua versus Otto Wallin. Anthony Joshua is still one of the elite heavyweights, despite having a few shaky years, the last 3 or 4 years. And if I'm being honest, when we look back on his legacy, I think these are the years he's going to be judged on the most. The last 3 or 4, probably starting from his first loss to Andy Ruiz Jr. up till now. I say his reputation's a bit of a low, really, because back-to-back losses to Alexander Usyk. But I personally don't hold that against him at all. Alexander Usyk is one of the best heavyweights of this generation, so I'm not going to hold those 2 losses against him. And he's up against Otto Wallin, who, in a fair world, would have a TKO win over Tyson Fury. Which, funny enough, is also his only loss. Because in that fight, he had caused a nasty cut to Tyson Fury's eye. I don't know how it wasn't waved off. I think almost I don't. I'd love to know the ref's reasoning for keeping that fight on because it was bleeding heavily. It's Tyson's Fury played a much more defensive game plan as a result of it, and it was clearly affecting him. I still believe that should have been a TKO win for Wallin, but this is boxing for you. For some reason, it wasn't. But yeah, very very unlucky not to get that TKO win over Fury. Having said that, how do I see this one playing out? Anthony Joshua is still an elite level boxer, and I still see him cruising his way to a comfortable decision. I can't really see him knocking out Otto Wallin, to be honest. Otto Wallin just looked a bit too good for that in his fight with Fury, and that's what I'm judging on mostly, really. So Anthony Joshua to win by decision. That's my pick for that one. Right, now if I just go on to this one, yep, just check it is on the wheel. Anyway, let's get on with the actual draw before I ramble on about boxing politics. Right, first up, A. Laminese, or A, as we call him. And he gets Joseph Parker. That's Joseph Seth Parker for A there. Joseph Parker up against Deontay Wilder, who was a heavyweight champion. I think he had the WBC belt for a while. I can't keep up with all the alphabet bodies, but long story short, he's not completely without a shout, but I think Wilder is going to win that one. I've got him 3rd round knockout simply because technically I'd say Joseph Parker is the better boxer, but Wilder has some freak knockout power. I'll be interested to know which other heavyweights from history compare in terms of Wilder's power. Whenever I've seen that debate online, Ernie Shavers is the only other name that crops up. So I can simply because of that alone, I see Wilder getting the knockout win there. It's minus 600 favourite as it happens. Wilder, Joseph Parker plus 400. So in theory, I'd say that A is going to lose in this game, but we shall see. Baron von Rattus is up next. And he gets Jai Opetaya. Jai Opetaya. And this is the first fight on the card. I've probably not spelled that right, have I? No. First fight on the card. I've got him to win by decision. He's 23-0. And also the bookies have him as a minus 2,500 favourite, which, as if I'm translating it right, is about basically 1 to 25 in British betting odds. I don't really know a lot about him or his opponent Ellis Zorro because, like I say, I follow boxing, but MMA is my main passion. Which boxing was what I first got me into combat sports, but then over the years I just sort of more switched to MMA. So I probably don't know as much about these guys as a proper boxing fan would, but he's a heavy favourite on the bookies. I've got him also to win by decision. So, in theory, Baron's got one of the heaviest favourites, or possibly, I think, the heaviest favourite odds-wise on the card. So yeah, good pick. Long story short, Bellatrix up next. And she's going to be going up against Baron von Rattis as she has Ellis Zorro. So yes, as I said, looks a little bit more on Zorro now. He's 17-0 as well, a very good record. And there's only okay, so that's that 6 fights less than Opi Taya. He's a minus 1,000 under a plus 1,000 underdog, I should say, against Opeta. Again, not 100% sure the justification for that. I'm going to assume that the last few guys are Pacia full of the next level, so he's got that kind of elite experience. That would be my presumption on that one. But in theory, 23-0 versus 17-0. Who knows? Maybe we'll see a knockout. Oh no, not a knockout, but maybe an upset or something. Because it's yeah, like I say, it's 2 undefeated records going head to head. Maybe form will go out the window. Maybe the bookies have misread this one. Let's hope so for Bellatrix. Boom Shakalaka up next. And Boom Shakalaka also gets Joseph Parker. Yeah, like I say, not a lot to rehash there, really. Just the fact that obviously he's up against Deontay Wilder. Expecting Wilder to win by knockout, the 3rd round knockout. If it's any silver lining, I did mention I'd say Parker's the more technical fighter of the two. Whether he's good enough to avoid Wilder's right hand for all 12 rounds, I don't know. Well, it reminds me of a quote by Wilder, actually. I think he said something along the lines once of their opponent has to be perfect for all 12 rounds to beat him, but he only has to be perfect for 1 second of that fight or something along those lines. So it could be a case of Parker's winning up until he gets knocked out. That's what I'm expecting from this one, but who knows if he can go the distance, he's got a real shout. Maybe. That's if he can dodge the right hand, but I just don't think he can. But we'll see, though. Best of luck to him. Best of luck to Boom Shakalaka. Calfoth up next. And let's see, Calfoth also gets paired with Ellis Zorro. Yeah, like I say, there are only 5 people in, and we're already starting to double up. But yeah, like I say, not a lot I can add to that. Massive underdog despite being 17-0. So I just assume he's not quite at the same level as Jael Peataya, but we'll see. That'll be a very interesting one. First fight on the card as well, so we won't have to wait long to find out. Canhego Ariz is up next. And he gets Otto Wallin. Otto Wallin there for Canhego Ariz. As I mentioned, fighting Anthony Joshua, and should have got a TKO win over Tyson Fury. That would have been a hell of a win if that happens. Don't know why it wasn't called off. I'd love to hear an interview with the ref or something at some point, because I don't understand why it wasn't. Maybe I don't know. I can't think of any explanation for that. But yeah. Having said that, does he beat Joshua? I don't think so. And if I recall, I don't think Wallin was ever really known for his knockout power, especially before that fight with Tyson Fury. And to be fair, unless he gets some kind of freak cuts like that against Anthony Joshua, which maybe he can, maybe that's his speciality, but unless he gets some kind of freak cut like that, I think Joshua should just be able to outbox him. I don't see Wallin being finished by Joshua, but it's but yeah, no, so I do still have Joshua to win that one by decision. But I'd love it if he could upset Joshua. Be a fighter that could arguably have beaten both Fury and Joshua. Don't think there's anyone that's going to be able to say that, unless the Fury Usyk fight happens, which it probably won't because boxing, politics, and all that. Anyway, Captain Quebec up next. Oh, that's right on the edge, but it's Joseph Parker. So yeah, also Joseph Parker. That's already the third person with Joseph Parker there. I'd say I think he's more well-rounded, but he's still good. I reckon he's going to get knocked out. I can't really add anything onto that one, but all I can say is just good luck. C. Collins, 44, who, as mentioned, is the one of the editors for boxing on the site. So I think he'll be especially interested to see who he gets paired with. And he gets Otto Wallin, who have just been talking about there. I'd be interested to see if his take on Wallin is the same as mine, whether that should have been a TKO win over Fury, and how much of a chance he really has against Joshua. He'll be hoping he can cause some upset like that, but ultimately, Joshua's headlining this thing. And I think in terms of boxing politics, with having Joshua as the main and Wilder in the co-main event, it feels like very much like they're trying to set both Wilder and Joshua up with a win, so that maybe they can finally get Joshua and Wilder to fight. That fight should have happened when they were both still world champions, but boxing politics, which is partly to blame for my shift to MMA in recent years. But anyway, it'll still be a nice fight to see, regardless. But yeah, because of that, because it feels like they're trying to set Wilder up with and Joshua up with a win here. Got to side with Joshua for that one, I'm afraid. Anyway, moving on, we have Cheeseball up next. And he gets Dimitri Bivol. Very good pick for that one, in my opinion. Dimitri Bivol. I'm not going to lie, I didn't know an awful lot about him until he beats the Mexican Canelo Alvarez. How did I forget that one? Until he beat Canelo on points after Canelo moved up to like heavyweight to challenge him. So for a more casual fan like me, that did really put him on the map. And he looked amazing in that fight, by the way. I didn't have any questions about that. When the final bell went, I thought, yeah, Bivol has won that, and that's how it turned out. And uh, obviously, I've got him to win my decision here. Um, Looking over his record, I kind of thought he had more knockouts to his name, but it seemed like a sort of half and half record, if I recall, in terms of wins and knockouts. But can he knock out Lyndon Arthur? Maybe. It's like heavyweight, who knows? I'd say that's where in heavyweight boxing is 12 rounds. There's a lot of time for it to happen. So it could stop Arthur. To be honest, I don't think it will happen, but I can see this just being a very one-sided affair. But like I say, Lyndon Arthur's not bad. He's just not quite at Dimitri Bivol's level. But it's still one of the best at light heavyweight. So all in all, a very good fight put together by boxing standards, and a fight that would rightly headline most boxing cards. But this, like I say, is a very, very good card by boxing standards. Probably the best I've ever seen. Damien Handel 420 up next. And he also gets drawn with Dimitri Bivol. Yeah, like I say, it's copy and paste what I've just said from the last one, really. Yep. Like I say, anyone good enough to beat Canelo, definitely good enough to beat Lyndon Arthur. That's in my opinion. I know obviously Canelo is moving up, but he is still bloody Canelo, one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world, arguably the best pound for pound boxer. Well, it's arguable. I'd say that's probably a Norway down the. I think it's flyweight, rough. Oh, that's one of the weights he fights. So it's like a four-weight world champion down there. But you can argue at least first or second. Most people should, I'd say, have Canelo as first or second in their pound for pound boxer rankings. But yeah, no, Bivol was very was it? It was Bivol to beat. I'm gonna have to check that record, but yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it was. But anyway, long story short, he should beat Lyndon Arthur. I'm just trying to think, was it? Yeah, was Bivol to beat? No, I'm not thinking of someone else. I know there's another beast at light heavyweight I'm thinking of as well. No, I don't. I don't know shit about boxing, and it's really starting to show in this video. Let's be honest. Anyway, Dr. Maxis 2, next to take on the wheel. And that's now 3 times in a row we get Dimitri Bivol. Yeah, like I say, yeah, not a lot I can add to that. So yeah, may as well. Other than I think that's a very good pick. Oh, don't know if I mentioned his odds. He's minus 2,000 favourites. 21-0. Yeah, I don't know how good you have to be. I mean, boxing odds are ridiculous compared to MMA odds. In MMA, if you see someone that's like a 400 minus 400 favorite, they're a heavy favorite, and then it's just like the boxing's like, oh yeah, no, fuck it, we'll just casually go into the thousands because the other guy got no chance. I don't know. Probably need a more intricate understanding of both betting and boxing to fully explain that scenario. Anyway, Foghorn Sam up next. Will it be Dimitri Bivol 4 times in a row? Nope, it's Mark Demori. First time he's come up. Mark Demori for Foghorn Sam. Again, he's one of the biggest underdogs on the card. Plus 1,800 favorite against Filip Hrgovic, who, in my opinion, is I don't see any way he loses. In fact, I've actually got him by first round knockout because that guy, having seen a few of his fights after being uh being told by one of my mates about how good he was a few years back, he's So the last few fights, he's just been a genetic freak in there. He's just. I'm of the opinion Hergovich will be a world champion one day. A proper world champion. He probably already has a belt of some kind. This is boxing after all. But but yeah, he's minus 4,000 favorite. If you're betting on that, that's just money laundering at that point. Let's be honest. But what am I saying? I'm basically saying that Mark Demori has no chance. Quite frankly, he's got a very good record: 41 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws. Which like I say that is a very respectable record. But like I say, I think he's just unfortunate that he's being matched up with someone who could potentially become one of those once in a generation kind of talents. So, best of luck to Foghorn Sam, but I can't. I would be stunned if that's anything other than a Hergovich early knockout, if I'm being honest. Maybe Demori can hang in there with him for a few more rounds and they give him credit for, probably. But I'd be very surprised if he even went the distance. But best of luck to Foghorn Sam, best of luck to Mark, but I just can't see Hergovich losing. Fresno MMA up next. Maybe should change his name to Fresno Boxing for this one-off event. And he gets Jarrell Miller. Jarrell Miller there for Fresno MMA. Now, bit of an interesting one. Jarrell Miller. He's fighting Daniel Dubois, who I've got Dubois to win by a knockout in the 8th round, and Dubois also one of my favourites, personal favourite boxers, because he always comes across as quite a nice guy. I quite like his fighting style. I can always watch a Dubois fight, and I was disappointed. I had him to beat Joe Joyce in his losing effort there, but that's probably when I realised, okay, maybe he's not quite going to be the next big superstar of world boxing, but still a very high level fighter. And as for Jarrell Miller, who's the one I suppose I should really be focusing on a bit more rather than just bouncing up and down on Dubois' dick. Um, let's he's I only really know him because he was meant to be fighting Anthony Joshua back in 2019. Then he failed a drugs test, which meant that he had to pull out of that fight, or rather, he wasn't cleared to compete. Which led to Joshua taking on Andrew Ruiz Jr. for the first time, which of course he won by Ruiz Jr. won by TKO in one of the biggest upsets in recent memory, which then of course triggered that whole redemption arc for Joshua and outboxing him in a second fight, and then all the sort of rebranding that went along with that. Then I think he had a couple of other fights, and then he basically met Fury. Not Fury, Usyk rather. I wish he had met Fury. But yeah, they met Usyk, lost a couple of times there. So in a roundabout way, Jarrell Miller, if that fight had gone ahead, I think Joshua would have just outboxed him, maybe stopped him. But yeah, and so it's a bit of an interesting sort of butterfly effect kind of thing going on there with him. But what could have been don't matter because they didn't fucking happen. So they don't really matter. All that matters is he's fighting Daniel Dubois, and I've got Dubois to win by 8th round knockouts, which isn't what Fresno MMA would want to hear, but that's if nothing else, I my own honest opinion, so that's just what it is. Anyway, moving on, we have KK Combo up next. And it froze for a bit there, but yeah, that's Ellis Sorrow for KK Combo. Like I say, Ellis Sorrow is I'd say the massive underdog against Jaya Opeyata. Again, I don't know a lot about that. So, but it's two undefeated fighters. At least you won't have to wait long to learn your fates. Uh, Cushy Cake, up next. Who also gets Jarrell Miller. You don't need another sort of sliding doors kind of ramble from me about Jarrell Miller. But like I say, just as mentioned, I think Dubois is going to win that by stoppage in the 8th round. But best of luck anyway. But I would be surprised if Miller wins that one. Mule Floyd up next. He gets Jai Opetea. Again, so again, it seems like there's quite a bit of interest on that first fight. There's how many with Opetea so far? There's oh, okay, so it seems at glance there's only one other, Baron Van Rattus, but Edisoro's name's popped up like 3 times. So that's at least a 3v2 for that one. So quite a bit of interest on our opening fight there. Piggy Bank is next to take on the wheel. And he joins what is fast becoming a fucking melee in that first fight. With also gets Jai Opetaya, who again the favourite of that melee, so he's on the lucky side if that's a thing for that one. He's on the 23-0 favourite. But yeah, no, that's that from the point of view. That's going to be. It seems like that's going to be the fight of the game. Really, every round of the Lucky Bastard game has that one fight that defines the round, and I think that's going to be it for this one. Rigno up next. And he gets the bronze bomber, Deontay Wilder. First time that's come up, actually. Deontay Wilder, like I say, freakish knockout power. He's got, isn't it? It's, I mean, it's, yeah, like I say, he's technical white. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, I shouldn't have got something in my mouth there. Is that one of my hairs? Yeah. Anyway, nice. Yeah. Try again with that one. So anyway, he's got Deontay Wilder, like I say, freak knockout power. Seems like on his day you can stop anyone, and he's always got a puncher's chance. That's for true. And I say I think we're going to see yet another knockout against Joseph Parker. So I'd be interested to know if there's anyone that can compare in terms of his level of power. But I don't know. That's a question for proper boxing experts, not someone like me. But anyway, for this game, he's gonna go through, I reckon. Up next, we got Shat is up next to take on the wheel. Well, when Shat also joins that first fight melee with Jai Opetea, and I think that's now balances out like 4-3 to Opetea. Yeah, so that'll be a very interesting one. Seems like the wheel just wants to cause maximum carnage for the first fight on the card, which, yeah, fuck it, that's the kind of madness we're all here for, let's be honest. If you wanted a serious game, you wouldn't be watching this video. But yeah, no, it'd be very interesting first fight. Schwer Industry up next. Oh, when he gets an Ajit Kabayel, which is a new name actually. So Ajit Kabayel. First time that one's come up. What have I got jotted down for? Ooh, that's not good. Yeah. So he's up against Arslanbek Makhmudov. I probably butchered that name, and I apologize. But again, from what I've only seen his last fight, I can't remember his opponent off the top of my head, but it was, I say, it was an very impressive showing anyway. And again, is I say typical knockout artist really. But from I've got him for fourth round knockout. Is a -800 favourite with the bookies, 18-0. Ajit Kabiel also undefeated, by the way, 23-0, 5 more fights to his name. Maybe I say it's just maybe it's just a case of the bookies don't think his chin's going to hold up to that one. And if from what I've seen of Makhmudov's last fight's anything to go by, I'm kind of inclined to agree with them. But that again could be a bit of an unpredictable fight. Who knows? But he is a fairly heavy favourite. Although by these consistencies, he's actually one of the sort of more moderate favourites, really. But he should get the win there, presumably by stoppage. CN6 up next. And he gets his opponent in that one, Arslanbek Makhmudov. Arslanbek. I'm going to butcher this name spelling wise as well. MUDOV. How the hell I got a GCSE in English? I've no idea. Language and literature actually. The two technically. I don't know how, given my awful spelling, but anyway, enough about my school days. No one's interested in that. But yeah, as I've just previously mentioned, Makhmudov, heavy favourites. I've got him to win by fourth round knockout. The precise rounds of boxing are harder to predict because obviously there's much more of them. If MMA fights were 12 rounds, I don't think we'd ever see any fights go the different distance. Except maybe a rematch between Carla Esparza and Rose Namajunas. But no, that's jokes aside. It's 12 rounds is that's a lot. So yeah, hard to predict the exact round, but I've got him to win by an earlier knockout. Me, Stephen Terry up next. Let's see who I get. Loki kind of hoping it's going to give me Daniel Dubois. Nope, but Ajit Kabiel it is for me. So I join. Oh, excuse me. I join Schwer Industry. In our little fight against CN6, but as I've just mentioned last couple of times in a row now, CN6 has got the heavy favourites, Makhmudov. So I don't fancy my chances of winning this one. In a game where there's a 50% chance of winning effectively, as this is just a one-off event, as I mentioned. I don't fancy my chances of being on the right side of that 50-odd percent. Tartara up next. Let's see who is going to be in Tartara's corner. He gets Otto Wallin. Otto Wallin is going to be fighting for Tartara in the I nearly said cage there. It's not going to be a cage. It's a boxing ring, isn't it? The squared enclosure rather than a cage. I wonder how much different boxing would be in a cage. I don't know. MMA in a ring, we've seen that in Pride and we've seen that in Rising. So that works. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Boxing in a cage. I know it is a thing on regional MMA promotions sometimes. So you got quite a lot of that in the regional UK MMA promotions, but proper high level boxing, I don't know. That would be interesting. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent there. He's got Otto Wallin, who, truth be told, is the underdog against Anthony Joshua. And as I've mentioned, it does feel like Joshua's being set up to win this one. Well, it's a Matchroom fighter, and it's Matchroom promoting this. So, which is another boxing bullshit politics. I could make a whole separate video on everything I hate about boxing politics. But I don't think anyone would want to watch that. But yeah, no, it is the underdog there, I'm afraid, but it certainly could be worse. The MMA historian up next. Maybe should be the boxing historian, but this game, but he also gets Otto Wallin there. So yeah, just let's Tata, an MMA historian, and a few others that have had Wallin. He's come up quite a few times, I think now. They'll be hoping he can get a free cut on Anthony Joshua and rightfully get that elite scalp that he's been chasing. Down to our last four now. Trail Allman is next to take the wheel. Yep, I think he's going to be one of our winners with Dmitry Bivol. I'd say not a lot to say about that one other than I can just see him at least cruising to a comfortable decision against Lyndon Arthur. But having said that, I suppose I should really be rooting for Lyndon Arthur, really, British fighter, up against is he Russian, Bivol? I think he's Russian. Sounds Russian. I should really be rooting for Lyndon Arthur, actually. Yeah, but brain over heart, I think Bivol's takes this one very easily. Trig up next. Let's see who Trig is drawn with. Yep, he gets, in my opinion, is the biggest lock on the card, Filip Hrgovic. Which I'm a little bit disappointed that this is the first time he's come up. But yeah, like I say, Filip Hrgovic, he's a beast. He's the next big thing in heavyweight boxing, in my opinion. And quite frankly, if he was to step in right now in a ring with the likes of Joshua, Wilder, Fury, Usyk, I'm not saying he definitely wins, but he definitely has a very good chance of winning. That's how highly I rate him at the moment. I'd take Filip Hrgovic over Joshua and Wilder, to be honest. Maybe not Fury and Usyk, but I reckon he's ready to take that next step up. But for now, I think we're just going to see him breeze past Mark Demori. But yeah, no, if you haven't seen a Hrgovic fight, definitely check out his fights tomorrow because I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Let's put it that way. Uber match up next. And Uber match, he joins that first fight melee with Ellis Zorro. That is a lot now for Zorro. Probably, I think off the top of my head, I think that's about 4 all, but for each fighter, I don't know. That's going to be mayhem. 2 undefeated boxers, about 7 or 8 people interested in that fight in terms of the game. That will be very interesting. And finally, ex-con Chris. Let's see who the wheel is going to give to Christopher. Lyndon Arthur for ex-con Chris. Funny enough, that's the first time he's come up in this game. Lyndon Arthur there. Like I say, I don't think he's got much of a chance against Dmitry Bivol, but we shall see. We shall see if he does manage to cause a major upset, but who knows? This is boxing. As I say it all the time with MMA, but it's true for boxing as well. One punch can change everything. So just to run through those names once more, I won't try and match up who's against who or which people are being teamed up with the same ones because I say there's only there's a lot of overlaps because there's less fights, less fighters, and there's 28 of you. So, but yeah, just go through those. A gets Joseph Parker. Aaron Van Rattus gets Jaya Pattaya. Bellatrix up against him with Ellis Sorrow. Boom Shakalaka with Joseph Parker. Cal Foth also with Ellis Sorrow, rather. Kenhager Ariz with Otto Wallin. Captain Quebec with Joseph Parker. C. Collins 44 with Otto Wallin. Cheeseball Damien Handel for 20 and Dr. Maxis 2, all with Dimitri Bivol. Ocon Sam with Mark Demori. Fresno MMA gets Jarrell Miller. KK Kombu also in that first fight melee with Elisoro. Cushy Cake also with Jarrell Miller. Both Mule Floyd and Piggy Bank in that first fight melee with Jay Opatea. Rigno with Deontay Wilder. Shat also with Jay Opatea. Swear Industry with Ajit Kabiel. Yunsix with Arslantik Makhmedov. Me with Ajit Kabiel. Hartero with Otto Wallin, the MMA historian, also with Otto Wallin as well. Trail Allman with Dimitri Bivol. Trig with who I think should be the heaviest favourite on the card, Filip Hrgovic. Ubermatch with Ellis Sorrow as well, and Excon Chris with Lyndon Arthur. So that completes the draw for this special edition of the Tapology Lucky Bastard game. As I said, I highly doubt it's going to be a next round of this because this is the time of year where it's all there's not really a lot of good fights going on. Let's be honest, in both MMA and boxing. Those of you who are in the main game, the 8 remaining players in the 16th edition, your spots are already safe in that one. So regardless of what happens here, we'll still be seeing you come January 13th. And it's yeah, this is just for fun. Statistically, I'm expecting about 14 winners if we're going on a 50% win-lose rate. But it will, I say, it will be interesting to see how this one works out. But there will be at least a dozen or so winners of this special edition. So, as always, that just leaves me to say, actually, one thing I will point out before I go, actually, one good thing about this one game format makes it pretty much impossible for the wheel to win. Unless every single fight ends in a draw or a no contest or something, it's pretty much impossible for the wheel to win this. That is one good thing, I guess. But that just leaves me to say good luck with your picks for this card. Good luck with the good luck with any bets you have on it. Although, frankly, given some of the betting odds, it's really not worth betting on unless you're confident one of those huge underdogs is going to land. All we'll say is obviously this adds a bit of interest to the boxing card. Like I say, we normally cover MMA here. And I know there's probably a few of you that only really follow MMA, don't really follow boxing. I know to an extent I'm one of them, but what I will say is 95% of the time MMA cards, or at least MMA shows like the UFC, are better quality than high-level boxing cards. But for that 5 odd percent of truly elite boxing, when the stars do align and we have high level fights like this, where the best are fighting the best, or even that's not strictly the case here with Joshua should be fighting Wilder, blah blah blah. But we're in cases where the best do fight the best, where we get good quality matchups. There is no sport on earth that can match a truly exciting boxing match. For instance, the third fight between Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury is the best combat sport fight I have ever seen, boxing or MMA, or a little bit of Muay Thai, which I'm trying to get into a little more. But that was the best combat sport fight I've ever seen. So hopefully we get a few fights of that caliber. But I say, just it's a good opportunity. What I'm saying is, if you're going to try out boxing, this is the card to get you into it. So I hope maybe some of you will become boxing fans as a result of this. But yeah, it's, I say, just a bit of fun, this one. So just adds a bit of interest into an event that maybe wouldn't get as many eyes otherwise from serious MMA fans, or just only MMA fans. But anyway, good luck with any bets. Good luck with your picks. Good luck in this game. You've got a 50% chance of winning. Just remember that. Unless, of course, you've got Mark Demori. And so long for now.